there's a great chance that your emotions are going to get the best of you. You're going to end up doing things, saying things to these kids our goal is to get them to believe in themselves. And if you don't understand, if you don't have good patience and perspective of what's going on and what's in front of you, there's a good chance you're going to end up pushing these kids out of the game with the words you use and the actions you take.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Clearing the Bases podcast, where we discuss all things related to the preparation and development of youth baseball players, coaches, and yes, even parents.
So again, then you hear about, we couldn't field the baseball. We're making all these errors. We can't throw strikes. We got, we're walking guys. Like coaches, we need to take a closer look at how we're approaching our job as coach.
It's all about getting 1% better every day. On today's show, we have Chris Gissell of Baseball Dudes fame. I got to tell you, I'm really excited about this show. Believe me, you can search all over the internet to try and find content that will help you become a better coach, player, or baseball parent. But there is none better than what Coach has to offer. He has a wealth of knowledge and experience from his 17 years as a professional player and coach, and I think it's a good idea that we listen closely to what Coach has to say.
How are we doing today, Coach?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Hanging
Fantastic.
in there, doing well.
Very good. How's the weather up there in the Northeast?
I don't know. It's getting to that time of year where I can't stand it. I mean, you're in Tyler, Texas now, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So where is that in Texas? Southern Texas, northern?
We are about an hour and a half east of Dallas.
Okay. All right.
Considered East Texas area. Yeah.
So your weather stays fairly warm?
Yeah, our forecast next 10 days is, low to mid 60s every day, couple chances of rain, but we've only lived here in Texas for almost 2.5 years now. And, it seems that November is a decent weather month. December's okay. Our colder times are, January, February, and then it goes back to getting nice again.
Well, we hit frost overnight, so to get an idea, that's where we're at.
Well, we had that a couple weeks ago, so it fluctuates here up and down pretty good.
Yeah. I remember when I was there a couple of years ago for the convention. When my plane landed, it was about 35 degrees, let's say, and then by the time the convention was over and I was heading home, I was in shorts and a t-shirt because it was like 72. Yeah. So
that sounds about right.
Yeah. But so you're originally from Vancouver, Washington, is that correct?
We moved here to Texas from Washington State, like I said, about 2.5 years ago. We lived there. I lived there with my family for about 30 years. Prior to that, we lived in the Bay Area of California.
Oh, okay.
So originally from California, but have spent most of my life in the Northwest.
All right. And any reason for the move, or just for better weather,
It was, just the whole COVID thing brought out some stuff that, we just felt it was time to make some changes for our family. So
that's always a good reason.
Heard a little bit. Heard a little bit about that in California.
Yeah, it's a different day, different conversation. But yeah. It was it was time to make a change for our family.
Right. Well, one of the things that I read about you is when you said that your purpose, your why, is to provide for your family while also doing everything that you can do to develop quality people through life lessons in baseball. And so that's kind of fitting that, family's first, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't hear from you guys if you how old your children are, but, ours are 20, 18, and newly 15. And it's, as parents, you just want to try to set your kids up for the best future possible. And once they become adults, it's kind of out of your hands, but you just hope that you did everything you could to put them in a good situation to succeed. And we're all just trying to do our best at everything.
Absolutely. Just like in coaching. You know,
Yes, sir.
we do everything we can to prep them for, doing things the right way and being successful. And then they got to take it and run with it from there.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
we never stop. We never stop coaching.
All right, so let's jump into this a little bit here. Talk to me a little bit about the baseball dudes, okay? How did this start? What's the background here?
All right, to go all the way back, well, it's 2023. We came up with the idea for Baseball Dudes back in 2013. So we're at 10 years now. And it originally, when we came up with the idea, my wife and I were on a anniversary trip, and this was when I was coaching with the Angels. And I was trying to figure out a way that when I left for the season, I could still stay in touch with the students I had back in Washington, and a way for them to send videos, kind of like an online platform, a way to send videos, do evaluations, keep that constant contact throughout their season. And originally, the Baseball Dudes website that you see now, it's completely different than when it started. When it started, it was more of a membership-based website. If I recall correctly, a few different types of memberships, again, all had to do with the evaluation, accountability, having someone being able to stay in touch with the kids and, someone to hold them accountable for what they needed to do. Fast forward a few years, we had enough members, but people just weren't using it the way that I had hoped. So I was like, look, I don't want these people giving me money if they're not even using it correctly. So then we switched to, I changed everything on the website and everything, all the information, all the documents, everything is free. And then I started creating products, and, if people like what they see and they appreciate what the information they're getting or whatever, they can go to the store and just, show their gratitude that way. And hopefully the stuff that they get also helps. So here we are 10 years later, and, social media has been huge for us. Between Facebook, Instagram, and formerly Twitter, now X, we have, I don't know, a combined maybe 170,000 followers, something like that.
Right.
So it's, I get on there and I teach, I give something every day, at least once a day. I'll intermix our products every now and then, but, I try to give away as much information as I can. Not everybody appreciates it, but that's the name of it. That's what coaching is. But no, it's been great. And, we're super grateful for the following that we do have and the support that we get. I've met way more people because of social media than I ever thought I would, that wouldn't be possible without it. For instance, you guys, we wouldn't be sitting here, having a chance to speak if it weren't for, that world.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I know that's played a huge part in our networking is social media. And you know what? I'm just going to drop back a little bit here because I want people to understand, Chris, a little bit about you that we didn't bring up. So, number one, you were a 1996 Major League draft pick right out of high school by the Cubs.
Yes, sir.
And that was, did I say it was 1996? I did.
96.
Okay. And then you spent the better part of 14 years in the minor leagues.
Yes, sir. Yeah, 14 years. I think I played for a handful of different organizations. Probably the most impactful years for my family were, 2 years spent in Japan playing. And then I spent about a few months over in Taiwan. But those years in Japan were kind of what really, honestly, from a financial family standpoint, made it all worth it.
Right.
Minor league salaries aren't anything special, which I know that most people understand. But that was, completely grateful for that opportunity.
You also did make it to the major leagues. You did move up with the Rockies. Is that right?
Yep. Just briefly, 2004. Not to go in crazy detail about every season of my career, but 2003, I spent the whole year with them in AAA. had a really good season, put up like a 3.5 ERA in Colorado Springs, which is not the easiest place to pitch. And then the next year, I think if I recall, I started this season with the Giants, and then they let me go the night before opening day. So then I spent a month at home before the Rockies finally called back, and I went back with them, and then finished that year in the big leagues for just a month and a half. So not a ton of major league experience, but again, grateful for the opportunity.
Well, that to me, that says a lot, because it tells me a lot about your perseverance, your dedication, your commitment. I mean, I'm assuming that that's why you moved into kind of what you're doing with Baseball Dudes, because a lot of what you went through is what you're trying to prepare kids to understand, that this is how it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that level of baseball is, the competitiveness is unlike anything that most ball players will get to experience. It's literally the best of the best, and not just in your league or in your state, and it's not even in your country. These are literally the best of the world. So you have to really find another level, another part of your competitiveness and your preparation to be able to last at that level, even just a couple of years, let alone be able to make a career out of it. But it's, the lessons were almost endless, to be honest. And again, if you read what I put out there, a lot of it is based off of that sort of stuff, the character traits that you need just in life in general that can come from sports.
I see a lot of, one of the big topics that's on your website is about like mental performance and, taking care of the non-physical side of the player. And I see it starts, you like to start that program real young. Obviously, your experiences of dealing with those types of rejections and adversity and all that has to come into play. If that's something that you can impart onto younger players. And I mean, listen, there's social media. There's all kinds of people that they criticize the best players in the game of, oh, he struck out in this situation, he's terrible, all that crap. And I've always said, I look at it and I go like, the example I always give is the bullpen catcher was the best player his school ever saw.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that's the level that he got to. So somebody like yourself able to be paid to play for a decade and a half, to me, is an amazing feat. Yeah. And everybody should look at it that way, and should look at it that you have a ton of information to impart. And like I said, when looking at things on your website, it really makes me glad that you're in a position to be able to offer that type of advice and kind of history for how to deal with those things.
Yeah, on the topic of people bashing or bad mouthing, former players or even current players about how they go about it, is always interesting to me. It's, if I hear Pujols or Cabrera, Trout talking about, what they want the bat to do when they swing, and when I hear these guys talk about, sure, they talk about staying on top and working down through it, and that's not what they really do. But what these guys are doing is they're sharing, what they want to think to get them to do things the way they do it, and again, it's, what is a term that I see a lot? It's, real versus, what they say versus what they really do. Sometimes they don't match, but again, that doesn't matter. Like, these guys are the best of the best, future Hall of Famers that are sharing what they want to think and feel to do what they have done at the highest level. Like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to listen, and as a pitcher, I can use it as an example of, if I'm missing high with my fastball, I want to feel like I'm literally throwing the ball downhill so that I can get the ball down in the zone. I'm going to stare at home plate and try to bounce it off the plate. Now, if you break my delivery down super, super slow motion, I'm not going to be on top of the baseball, right? But that's what I want to feel to get that ball down. Right. So it's super interesting to sit back, and I don't interact because I've tried it before. It never ends well.
Right. I always go by, I'd rather keep my mouth shut and let people think I don't know what I'm doing than to open my mouth and cause a problem.
Social media interaction, it's it's just a recipe for disaster. Keyboard is a real thing.
It's a double-edged sword. It also affords us to connect, people like us to connect and get to know each other. But unfortunately, the overwhelming majority seems to be on a downward swing.
And that's everything is social media. Politics is the worst. The topic of politics on social media is just stay away from it.
It's toxic.
Nobody's going to win. You're going to leave those conversations, upset, and you'll carry around those emotions all day. It's not worth it.
Right. I love what you said about when you were saying about hitters, when they say stay on top of the baseball. So again, I want people to understand that to me, because I happen to use that one a lot, stay on top of the baseball. No, I don't expect my players to pound the ball into the ground 3 feet in front of home plate. The idea
that's the word there.
Exactly right. The idea is it's a cue. It's a cue to make you understand, to get you to move the way I think you need to move. So I want everybody to understand that. So those cues are what's really, really important. And they don't necessarily have to be something that, again, some people will jump on you for saying that, stay on top of the ball. What are you, crazy? I want them to hit, missiles up in the air. But no, it's a cue.
Yeah. Yeah. And what people forget too is that there's so many different ways to do it. You can get Josh Donaldson on there who, his career has kind of gone downhill a bit lately, but he's going to talk about a completely different thing. But again, these guys are all big leaguers. They are the best of the best. And you could talk to 10 of them and get 10 different opinions and approaches. And what we need to do as coaches and players and parents is hear it all, just so we have more things to try when things, when we're not getting the results that we want.
Yeah. So one of the things that I saw, and I'm pretty sure it was on your website, you were talking about teaching the game and how to instill character traits and, develop leaders. And it seemed to me that your appreciation and understanding of coaching is very deep. Why don't you explain a little bit about youth coaches and really what they should be doing and why you have this appreciation for coaches?
Well, what they should be doing, is just my thoughts. It's not, this is what they need. This is what they have to do. That's where I think social media gets twisted. You put something out there and they're like, this is an absolute, this is how you have to do it. Like, no, this is just my thoughts. And, you take from it what you want. My opinion, it's youth baseball has turned into a place where the adult emotions of, winning a game or winning a tournament, the feelings that come from that tend to get in the way of, the big picture of what's really going on. You have adolescent, sometimes not even close to puberty athletes trying to do something really hard. The level of focus, the level of consistency, these kids will trip while they're walking, let alone out there trying to do things, that baseball requires. Understanding that as coaches, we need, as parents, we need, when we're sitting there watching these kids, we have to be careful of our emotions of what we think that they should be able to do. That we got to keep those expectations real, and the hard part about youth athletes is you can see them do great things. They have moments of greatness, but again, they're just kids, and to be consistent with those abilities is not realistic, and again, your early developers will probably see more consistency, but I would say there's way more late developers than there is early developers, Absolutely. And you get these youth parents, youth coaches that want to put together these super teams, that go out and just clean everybody's slate. And it's not reality. I mean, I would rather have kids learn, what it's like to fail a little bit, learn what it's like to go out there and get their butts kicked and how we're going to persevere and push through that. These kids, we're trying to prepare them for their high school seasons and beyond, and in high school, there's a good chance they're not going to end up on a team that they win every single game. We want these kids to know how to be good teammates and how to pump each other up when things don't go good. How to get themselves back up when things don't go good. So, I mean, there's many layers to it, but we need to, as in the youth world, I really feel we need to keep things in perspective of what it's really about. And that's the kids, teaching them a game and helping prepare them for those high school years and beyond as young adults. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, no. It was perfect. And, one of the things I when you were talking, I was thinking of is don't be, we want your opinion. I want to know what you think. Because believe me, I'll put my opinion out there. Dave will do the same thing. And most of our guests do too, because again, like you said, it's only another perspective. I don't expect everybody to say, that I'm the greatest coach in the world because I said this, that, or the other thing. Disagree with me. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Because that's how we get better.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Debate is always good. Healthy debate is good. Unfortunately, people don't like to debate. They just want to argue. There's a big difference. Yeah. Debate can stay civil. Argument, it can go off rails real quick.
Right. It's the whole thing. It's the same topic of everybody wants to be in an echo chamber is the current nomenclature of all I want to hear is my own thoughts thrown back out at me. So I go, yep, great. We're on the same page. But then you're not expanding your mind and you're not learning. And that's if we're not learning, then we're done. What's the point anymore?
Right. Yep. Yeah. I read something recently, and I hope I say this right, that people listen to respond. They don't listen to hear. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was, pretty good because again, I want to listen so that I have questions to come back to you with, so that we can debate. Hey, what did you mean when you said, again, we go back to the example that you used about staying on top of the ball. What did you mean by that? And then we can get into a debate and it's a better understanding rather than say, no, you're full of crap. You don't stay on top of the ball. That's nonsense. You know what I mean? It has to be done that way. But so a few of the things that again, I'm going to stay on the coaching thing for a little bit. And because I think it's important, I want youth coaches to understand that, number one, there's an incredible amount of time that you have to put into it to be successful and to be effective for your players. So that's number one. And then let's talk about a little bit what your beliefs are, okay? We'll say, a coach's patience, his attention to detail, that type of stuff.
Well, age relatable is super important. I've found your best coaches are going to be, not always, but they tend to be the men who are parents of, like yourselves, of younger adults. So they've been through it already, and they've had years and years and years of experience of working with athletes, especially younger athletes. Cause you used the word patience. You need so much patience. You need to be ready to repeat yourself over and over and over with these young kids. It's just how it is. It's the age. It's what teachers have to go through in schools. It's no difference. And that level of patience, it needs to be a requirement. To be honest, if you're not a patient person and don't understand that, you should not be coaching young kids. You shouldn't be, right? Because there's a great chance that your emotions are going to get the best of you. You're going to end up doing things, saying things to these kids our goal is to get them to believe in themselves. And if you don't understand, if you don't have good patience and perspective of what's going on and what's in front of you, there's a good chance you're going to end up pushing these kids out of the game with the words you use and the actions you take. And that's a side of the youth game that there's a lot of things that we could talk about, but the coaches and the impact that they have, most don't understand how important that is.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. Patience is something that we all, even at the JV and varsity level, you still have to have patience, because really, they're still kids. I mean, they might be older kids, but still, there's a certain amount of patience. And again, what I've seen over the years is that a lot of the players that come up, 14, 15, 16-year-old players, that they really don't have the foundation of the game down. Their baseball IQ is very low. Not all of them were taught the basics or the fundamentals of the game. So it's our job to be patient, because we have to teach it to them. Otherwise, we're not doing our job. And so that's kind of why I went to the patience stuff. But let's talk about like with your facility, like about teaching the basics, the fundamentals, IQ, all of that type of stuff. How do you do that?
I'm going to go back to something you just said a second ago. At the high school level, you guys have been experiencing it for a while now. Truth is that you guys should not be getting players that don't understand primary and secondary leads.
Yes.
Every pitcher that comes to you guys should be proficient in backing up bases. We should understand how to run a rundown properly. We should understand how to receive a ball on a relay throw, and be able to catch it and throw it in the air at the same time.
Yeah.
These are our basic fundamentals. But then it goes back to youth ball, who these players were with before they got to you in high school. And unfortunately, a lot of those coaches aren't students themselves. If they did play, maybe they played up into high school. Most of them, some of them didn't even play at that level. But a lot of them, they think it's, the game is all hitting, with sprinkled in with a little bit of fielding. And it blows my mind. I will never understand how few coaches at all levels, to be honest, give their pitchers and catchers consistent practice. Like the game revolves literally every pitch that's thrown. Those are the only two positions that touch the baseball every pitch. And it is, I've taken some surveys. We have one on our website. I've taken it online, and it's a little over 50% of programs out there, their pitchers get consistent weekly work. Wow. Besides pitching in a game.
Wow.
And it's less than 50% of high school programs down on through youth ball that give their catchers individual work every week in some way.
Wow. Which
again, but how many of those programs do you think practice hitting every week?
Every 100%.
Yeah. 100%. Right. So again, and then you hear about, we couldn't field the baseball. We're making all these errors. We can't throw strikes. We got, we're walking guys like coaches. We need to take a closer look at how we're approaching our job as coach, and the reality is that not most, unfortunately, just don't understand the big picture of the game. We don't understand. So those fundamentals, that baseball IQ that you're talking about, you guys shouldn't have to deal with that, to be honest. That's not a high school coaches. That's not what you should be there to do. They're obviously, you're getting these kids, they're still teenagers. There's always something to learn, but those basic fundamentals are things that should have been ironed out, or at least these kids have a good understanding of it, by the time they're 14 years old, without a doubt.
We could probably, Dave and I could probably sit here and do a 3-hour show on the things that we have seen that will just blow people's minds, high school level kids. From, running themselves into outs with a ball hit in front of them, to not knowing when to tag up, not knowing, like you said, primary and secondary leads.
Cutoffs and it's amazing. Forget getting kids in a rundown, knowing that you follow the ball. No, it's crazy. And everybody we have on that is a high school coach or higher, and we've had We've had high level trainers like yourself on. We've had plenty of college coaches on. Every single one of them, we asked that question, like, are you seeing this as being a worse thing? Because sometimes you don't know if it's a geographic thing or if it's just, Jimmy and I being old men, get off my lawn, like, these damn kids of today, that type of thing. But everybody that we talk to has the same basic response of, oh yeah, we're way behind at this level. We've got college players coming in that we have to teach some 101 level stuff to. And we talk about, like, what's one thing you wish that the player had before they got to you. And most of it is, it's not curveball, and it's not, it's not hitting behind the runner with with less than 2 outs. It's the basic stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Teaching these kids, and I'm a believer of teaching the kids the game and letting them play, watching them play, observe. What do we do good? What do we need to work on? Let's work on it outside of the game. Let's go do it again. Right. So it's like the practice is for the test, and then we practice some more to get better at the test. Right. So it's a constant back and forth. And I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I struggle with, and again, just because the level I was at for so long, but I struggle with all these coaches calling pitches, and I mean, it's not rocket science. It really isn't. And I had actually yesterday, the kid is 11, and the dad was telling me that his kid pitched, coach was calling pitches, and after the game, the coach was, he overheard the coach saying this, or the coach was saying it to him. I can't remember, but the coach was talking about how good of a game he called. So I hear this stuff, and he's like, oh yeah, I hear coaches say this stuff all the time. Like, did you see that game I called? And then I'm like, I mean, if there's not a bigger example of coaches trying to live out their past through the players, I can't think of what else is. Okay. And like, I hear that stuff, like, for me, that's part of what's wrong. That's why these kids get to you and they don't know what to do. Yeah. Right. Competing pitchers and catchers. And again, I feel strongly about this because I am a former pitcher, but like, that's me as a competitor, right? I need to be able to read the batter and, see that where he's standing in the box and what, where his stride is going and what's it going to open up for me. And, if I throw this pitch a little bit in off the plate, how that's going to affect the outside part of the plate. These may sound like more high level thinking, but I've seen it done. I've done it myself. You can get preteen kids to see the game this way, right? But it takes effort. It takes knowledge, right? It takes an IQ of the game and that patience word. It takes the patience to teach the kids, let them go out there, let them make mistakes. Let's talk about it, right? It's constant. Let's go, right? If these kids were to start, being able to do that part of the game from day one as an 8-9-year-old when they first start kid pitch, do you know how much more prepared they're going to be when they get to you guys?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that should be our goals as coaches, youth coaches, that by the time that I pass you guys on to your high school coach, that coach is so happy to have a player that is ready. Yeah. Not one that he has to teach how to run a rundown. Right. Yeah, I mean, or teach how to bunt a baseball. It's crazy how many kids don't know how to bunt. I mean, it's such a basic fundamental. Yeah. Like, come on. Yeah. But the coaches don't practice, because to them, they feel it's not an important part of the game. And I want to teach kids to know how to do everything. That's it. Right. It's not my game anymore. Right. I'm going to teach you how to do it, and you go do it, and you become the best version of you.
Well, what I like what you said about, calling pitches. I'm on board with you 100%. I don't think I've called pitches. I can't remember the last time I've done it. Okay. I believe, and I got this really not from my baseball coaching. I really got this from my professional work when I was very young, 18, 19, first getting into the business I'm in. And I was told, if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. And I carried that with me, and I used that in my baseball coaching, where what you were saying about calling pitches. I want them to make mistakes, make those mistakes. And we'll talk about it a little bit. Okay. Well, maybe next time let's try and think like this a little bit. What do you think? Let's try it. Because to your point, You have to try it. You got to make mistakes. That's how you learn.
Well, it also keeps them mentally out there working. If they're out there and they're just waiting to be told what to do all the time, they're not going to be all in.
Right.
They just become like robots a little bit. And that's not what your level and beyond. The coaches don't want that stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of this calling pitches stuff started at the college level. And then now with the wristbands and the, microphone, all that stuff, it's going to creep down into the youth ball. And then it's going to everybody's going to think that's how it's done. The constant, well, they do it in football, so why can't we do it in baseball? Like it's a different game.
Yeah.
Right. Let's not try to compare the two, but again, it's just different perspectives. And, I think I saw an article once, there's a college coach that doesn't call pitches. And then there's another program that does call pitches, and the players that end up going professional out of those programs, like, is there one, that is more prepared than the other? And I don't really know what the results were. I would like to think that the kids who are taught how to do it are a little bit more prepared, because I know at the pro level, it's mandatory. Very, very, very few pitches are going to be called from the bench. I remember one time as a coach calling pitches from the dugout, and that was because we were told, hey, this kid isn't throwing enough changeups. He's not working on it enough. They're not calling it enough. If you see it needs to be thrown, get your catcher's attention, tell them to call it. Like, that's it. And that's kind of the extent of pitch calling at those higher levels. Besides that, I mean, it's, in real life, you have to, observing, critical thinking, making educated decisions is a part of life, and I can't think of, again, as a pitcher, a better way to get to practice that, 80 to 100 times in a game. It's just, but again, then don't overthink it either. We try to make this way too complicated than it is.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit about effort. That's one of Dave's things, positive mental attitude and 100% effort. So what are you seeing, and what are you doing to teach your players how to give 100% effort?
Effort is a requirement. It should be something that's demanded. It should be something that, if it's not given, there should be repercussions. An effort, you can look at it many ways, whether it's a hustling thing. I like to put focus in the same category. Players are having a hard time focus. And again, we're going to go back to know your audience, be realistic of who's in front of you and what to expect from them. Effort should be easy. And if players aren't giving it, they're not all in. And I don't care. This would be my way of approaching it. I don't care if you're my best hitter, if you're my strongest hitter, my best pitcher. If you're struggling to give effort, then you're not going to get the same, playing time, that precious playing time thing. You're not going to get the same playing time as the kids who are showing up every day. That's not how the real world works. More often than not, there are some cases where, super talented is just going to get an opportunity no matter what. But, reality is that's not the type, as parents, that's not the type of humans we want to raise. So I would use the game in that way, day in, day out. As far as attitude goes, for me, it's no different. Attitude is a choice. I'm actually wearing a shirt right now that talks about both these things. Attitude is a choice. It is the example that you're giving your teammates, and to take it a step further, us as coaches, both of these things we're talking about should be something that we give an example of every single day we're in front of them. We can't ask it of them and then struggle in some of those areas ourselves. And if we are inconsistent, we can't get upset when they're inconsistent in those areas. Attitude and effort, we like to say that those are two of the only things that we have full control of. And there's no question that it is, along with your focus and your energy and just what you bring to the table every single day.
Well, you're stealing my lines, man. I got That's what I end the show every day. Every show with is the only two things in life that we can control: our effort and our attitude. That is, other than for a brief moment of gut reaction in terms of attitude, brief moment, gather yourself, and now you're back in control. And the people that can't do that, those are the ones that you're seeing the news reports on of, the fights breaking out and the arguments and all that stuff. And unfortunately, that is now, very much, I'm sure you've seen it 1,000 times, permeated into the adults at the field, not just the players. Mm-hmm. But that's something we talk about all the time when it comes to youth development and trying to teach those things. And say, you can't teach heart, you can't teach. I think you can in the reinforcements that you do, and also in the example that you set is probably the biggest way.
The team culture starts with the coaches, and you can break that down to their attitude and effort. And then everything kind of from the players to the parents, everything from that coach or coaches on the field is going to feed off of that energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how the well-run programs are going to be.
Yep. We have like 9 wristbands now, I think, and the very first one we made was attitude and effort. Yeah.
I mean, it's really important. I just had a conversation with another coach just a couple of days ago about this, and it was about a couple of players that may not be the most talented players in their organization. And I said, those kids are on the field like almost 100% of the time will be on the field almost 100% of the time on any one of my teams, because the effort, the attitude, the hustle, everything is there. So like you said, there has to be repercussions to players that don't do it. And what we see a lot nowadays is players that are talented and everybody's been blowing smoke up their butts and they think they don't have to do it because they're so good. Well, I'll tell you something. You put that kid on the bench and put a kid out there playing every day that they see is not as talented as them. And believe me, you're going to send a strong message. They're going to pick up on it real quick.
But the coaches have to be consistent with it too. If you say it and then you don't follow through with it, it's
ouch.
It's more smoke,
right?
And that's
like
the players see through it. They end up seeing through it. The parents see through it. There's a lot more that goes into coaching than making the lineup, and that's I think where it gets skewed a little bit is just an understanding of what leadership means, and the role of it is leads to all this drama we see, to be honest.
Sure.
Yeah. The lineup stuff is, to me, that's the easy part. That's the fun part. Mm-hmm. It's all the rest of it. That's the work. And I mean, there's decisions to be made and obviously it matters, but if you've done everything, if you've done everything right up to that point, then it's going to most part make itself. I mean, are you really going to stress over who's hitting 7th versus 8th? To me, you put the faster kid up 7th. That's just kind of how that stuff goes.
The hard part is that the players and the parents do. They live and die by that stuff, and that's again the adult emotions trickle down to their kids. Yeah,
and that's always a tough one, like you said, with the parents. Why is my kid hitting such and such in the order? I mean, I have a standard response to that, which is not really a good one. There's another spot I could put him that'll make it easier for both of us. If I put him on the bench, then we're not going to have this discussion, are we? And then right away they change.
All these parents, and players need to be put in check a little bit and answer the question, how much time are they spending on their own practicing? How much time do you help your kid practice? What do you see him do, when he's away from the team that's helping him get better? And sometimes it could be as simple as watching a video on YouTube, whoever their favorite player is, watching their swing. Like that, it doesn't mean they have to go outside and hit the baseball every day. It could be picking up a book on mental toughness and, getting better mentally. But it's getting these kids to just really love the game enough to where they want to do that is the hard part, and you guys have seen it. You'll see that your better players are the ones that, take it upon themselves to own their own development. And it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes for the players and for the coaches, that one of the reasons they're not getting the results is because of what they're not doing. They think that, hey, this coach is going to be the one that make me better. Like, no, I mean, all the kids that I get to work with in here, there's a strong message and understanding that I see you for maybe an hour a week. You're not going to get better just because of today. You're going to get better by taking the stuff that we talk about and we work on and going out there and applying it. Whether you're with your team or you're at home in front of a mirror, that's where you're going to get better. And, it needs to be flipped on the players and the parents a little bit, and them having an understanding of that.
I've done it many, many times. It's that simple.
Yeah. The ownership part is hard. It's easy to blame and make excuses. And for some reason, human nature, that's how a lot of us are ingrained, from a young age. But again, that accountability and ownership is, it's a difference maker.
And us as coaches, if we're not brutally honest with the player and the parent, then we're doing them a disservice, because there's no point in telling them what they want to hear. You have to tell them what they actually need.
Yeah. It's almost like you have a kid with a really, really good fastball that all he wants to do is throw fastballs because nobody can beat him. Like, but at some point, it's not going to work that way. We have to find time. You have to work on your other stuff too. And they just, sometimes they can't get it through their head, that rearing back and throwing the ball and missing all over the place. But these kids are swinging and missing because of how hard you do throw. Like, at the next level, it's not going to work. Right. Like, you're good enough to play at the next level, talent wise, but are you good enough ability wise, or vice versa to compete at the next level? That's the question. I can think of one kid right now that got drafted and, just really in high school, he just, struck out a lot of guys on not necessarily hitting spots. And then at the next level, he just couldn't cut it. He couldn't throw strikes consistently enough.
So from a pitching standpoint, obviously that's your bread and butter here. What would you say, would drive me crazy having all these kids trying to throw curveballs and cutters and sinkers and all this stuff? And I'm talking about the youngest kids, when they couldn't throw, pick one and learn how to throw it and all that stuff. Out of any type of, obviously, first step is you got to be able to throw a fastball consistently for strikes, right? What's the next pitch you like to develop? So for me, and again, everybody's different thoughts. From the moment kids are going to start pitching, whether that's 8, 9 years old, I teach them a change-up grip. Now, are they going to throw it in the games? Maybe not necessarily, but I just want to get them used to throwing a different grip. I want that change-up grip in their hand to feel as comfortable as a fastball grip. I've learned, to be honest, that change-up is not a hard pitch to learn. The biggest mistake, I don't have a baseball around here. Hang on one second. So one of the biggest mistakes I see on change-ups is everybody thinks that the circle change is like the only change-up grip to throw. And when young pitchers do it, to make that circle, they have to pull that ball into their palm, and that ball's in their palm. And then when they go to throw it, it's not comfortable. They end up slowing their arm down, which we don't want. Or when they do try to throw it with good arm speed, they end up spiking it into the ground, right? And that's because that ball's in their palm, and then their fingertips at the last second are pulling on it. So teaching kids, a proper grip where that ball is not touching their palm, and they're loose with their grip and they're loose with their wrist. It's not a hard pitch to learn. But I throw it every day too. And I think that's one of the differences is I play catch with my changeup every day. So I've been able to experiment and try different things with these kids and see what works for a majority of them. But I start teaching them a changeup from day one.
And again, it's interesting when kids come in here that I meet for the first time and they're 14, 15 high schoolers, 14, 15 years old high schoolers they have never really thrown a changeup, or they did, but it didn't work for them. So they just haven't worked on it. And again, these are things, in my opinion, that these kids need to be learning well before they get to you guys.
Right. I've seen kids where they don't want to throw a changeup. Oh no, they always hit my changeup. They can't hit my fastball, but they can hit my changeup. I'm like, well, okay. First off, you're into a whole new world where everybody's going to be whatever, half the lineup's going to be able to hit your fastball. First of all, second of all, yeah, they hit it because you just threw a slow fastball. You didn't throw a changeup. There's
and you didn't throw it to the right spot. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so glad that you brought that up. That to me is the most important pitch to teach a young player.
Yeah, it's you talk to high level hitters, and a good changeup is one of the hardest pitches to hit. Pitchers that everything looks like they're throwing a fastball, and then it comes out and it's 5 to 8 mile an hour slower, sometimes more than that. It's the hardest pitch to recognize. And again, it's not hard to teach. We just need coaches that study the game and look for things to learn that they don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a simple thing, Chris, is like you said, getting comfortable with the grip. I think it was Wayne Mazzoni that said, when you're sitting there watching TV, a young kid, you're watching TV, just put the ball in your hand and just hold it. Just hold it. So you get used to that grip. And again, it doesn't take a tremendous amount of, there's that word again, it doesn't take a tremendous amount of effort. It just takes the desire to want to learn it, and then you'll do it.
Yeah.
What I'd like you to talk about a little bit, Chris, is being a student of the game. Watch baseball games as a student, not necessarily as a fan. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
There's a difference between watching the game as a fan and watching as a student. We all start as fans, right? And watching the game as a fan, I'll say that you're watching the game and you just see, what's going on in the field. You're waiting for a great play to be made. You're looking at the speed of each pitch. You're waiting to see how far that ball goes. And now the fan experience, you get to see exit velo and how far the distance and angle. That's what that excites the fans, whereas a student is going to watch the game. And as a pitcher, I'm watching where the guy is standing on the rubber, when he lifts his leg, what direction does he lift his leg in? When he takes the ball out of his glove, what direction does his glove go? Which, by the way, he doesn't point at the target. Very few do. When he turns to throw, what is the arm action like, and where's that glove going? How are those pieces working together, right? So a student is going to watch the game and pay attention to all those little things that we are trying to emulate, those things that when I'm out there performing or practicing that I want to be able to do. I'm watching fielders field ground balls, right? I'm seeing how they flip it. I'm watching their footwork when they flip. What does their glove do? What does their hand do? Ground ball right to them. What is their left foot action while they're fielding the ball? I mean, there's so many things that we could pick up on as players if I change my thought of how I watch the game. And again, I'm a fan at heart, but I also love this game and want to be the best player I can be. What can I take from watching this, even this one at bat, right? What are they doing compared to what I do? And a lot of kids, to be honest, this is the video generation. Everybody has a phone. A lot of these kids have never really even seen themselves swing. I'm like, hey, your parents, I bet you they have video. Let's everything that we're working on here. When you're out there and if mom and dad take a video of your swing, see what you are, what are you able to apply and what are you still struggling with? So watching the game as a student, man, that's again another thing that is a difference maker.
Yeah, it even goes back to something that we just spoke about is calling pitches. I mean, you're watching the game, and I do this all the time when I'm watching the game. What pitches again? Well, I would throw this now. What is he going to throw? Yeah. You're constantly thinking, and that's a simple little thing that you could do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is obviously a different level. Those guys are throwing low to mid to upper 90s, sometimes triple digits. They can get away with some things that we can't, right?
Right.
And it's all relative. They're also pitching against the best hitters in the world.
Right.
But again, there's still something that we can take from it. I mean, pitchers being unpredictable with pitch selection it's got to be a priority.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. I want to get to one more thing, and then we'll wrap this up. I don't want to keep you too long. Let's talk a little bit about, and we touched on it a little bit, but I don't think we got into it very deeply, coaches. And how important is it that coaches be coachable themselves?
How important is it?
Yep.
I would say that, look at it this way. We, as coaches, our desire is to have players in front of us that are coachable, players that listen attentively, players that are looking for information, players that are engaged, players who will try to apply what we are teaching them. And as a coach, we need to be the same, right? There's even major league managers have mentors, right? Those guys all have guys that they are going to go to with questions, look for feedback, and, try to figure out something, a better way to do their job. As coaches, no matter what level we're at, we need to have a mindset of, how can I help these kids? What do they need to be better competitors? What do they need for me to run a better practice? Right. And I feel grateful, when I get parents in here who are coaches, who are taking notes when we're talking, who are asking questions, and, I just had a conversation the other day, like, what's your favorite drill to run? Whatever. I mean, coaches that are looking for advice on how to give their players a better experience. And I would say we want our players to be coachable, but I almost feel that coaches being coachable is even more important. If you can make one or the other more important than the other, a coach broadening their knowledge base is vital to player development.
Yeah, I think that what's really important as far as a coach being coachable is to actually try and seek out knowledge. Okay, so like you said, and I'll be honest with you, I was just doing it this morning. I'm putting together, some paperwork for our winter workouts and then going into our spring season. And I wanted to get something on paper about rundowns. Okay, now obviously I have drills that I do. I know, what I expect from rundowns. There's all kinds of. I went out and I looked for more information from people that I trust to try and get maybe something that I'm missing, something that I could be better at doing rundowns. And, again, it's, I believe that it's being, I guess it's curious to see what other thoughts are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
For sure. Have you guys ever played T-ball with your high school players? Yep. Have you heard of T-ball?
I never have. No.
How do you run your T-ball game?
It's something we would do. We would do once in a while, kind of an end of practice thing, more of just kind of lighten the mood type of thing. But we would try to get them to. We would do extra points for going opposite field. Probably do 2, 3. We have a small squad. I'm at a small school where we have. This is the other thing that factors in here with all of the things that we're talking about is my JV team is typically almost half 8th graders. So we're primarily 8th and 9th with just a couple of 10th graders on our JV team. Our school district is that small. If you're a pretty good player, 10th grade, you're absolutely on varsity, and even a couple of 9th graders will get up there on the regular. But anyway, so we'll do typically 3 teams of 4 or whatever and rotate out and just kind of assign points for getting the ball to a certain level, not. We'll do it in the cage sometimes. We'll go, if you hit the top of the cage, you're out. That kind of stuff.
Gotcha. So the T-ball game that I'll run with the players, and depending on your roster size, you split them up into even teams. Say you have 12 players, three teams of 4, and you have one group is hitting while the other 2 teams are out in the field, different positions. Every time you switch, the kids go to different positions. Have a pitcher on the mound. He throws a fake pitch. Everything goes off the pitcher, and then the hitter is going to load up and hit it, right? So, and then from there, we're playing it live. And, the kids always love it. It's a great way to force situations. It's a great way to, it's constant, right? Every pitch, there's a ball hit and play. Sometimes you can have the pitcher on the mound. And again, these would be for the older kids. Have them do, fake pickoffs, where the base runners have to actually read the pitcher what they're doing, gives the pitcher a chance to work on footwork or whatever. But it's a great drill that I've found. One, that the kids really enjoy. 2, you can get a lot of cuts and relays, double play situations. You can throw everything at them. Within like a half hour, you can just cover a lot of stuff. And then you get 3 outs, and another group of 4 will come in while that group of 4 goes out. Everybody switches positions. But it's a fun game. And obviously, the more players you have, the bigger you can make the teams. But man, there's a lot of great little drills you can do out there to keep the kids engaged. But again, little things like that, like, these coaches hear these type of things, and that's what the good ones are looking for. They're looking for ways to be different, to keep the kids excited, to keep them engaged, and to at the same time work on stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I just became a better coach just from that, just from that little bit about the T-ball game, because I've never done it, and I guarantee you this spring I will be doing it.
Oh, you're welcome.
The first time that, the kids hear T-ball, they're confused. They think it's for little kids. They're like, but then once they start doing it, I'll have kids that they ask to do it every day at practice. It's fun for them, and even that, especially the older kids, where do you want to place the tee versus where you want to hit the ball? Amazing how many hitters don't know proper tee placement.
One of the huge differences on that too is going to be geographically, because you got to remember, when we start doing winter workouts, we're doing a ton of tee work, whereas you're outside, because we're inside in the gym with Incrediballs. Being in California and Texas, you guys are outside almost the whole time. So up here, Jimmy, I know you may not have been playing T-ball, but I'm sure you were hitting off a tee on the regular.
Oh yeah, I do a ton of hitting off the tee because I think it's very important, and we also kind of have no choice. There's only so many live, pitching or soft toss stations you can set up in a gym. So being able to hit off a tee is just it's kind of a necessity. It is huge from a developmental standpoint, but it's also a necessity up here.
Yeah. Do you guys have your kids play pepper?
Yes. They have a hard time grasping the concept, but
that's another thing that, I'm 45. That's what I grew up doing with my father. Short barrel control for the hitters. As fielders, you got to quick react, and it's just a great game. It's just a great little drill for hitters or anybody to warm up with, and I wish stuff like that happened more often. I really do.
Yeah.
And the kids love it, because it becomes, the competitive nature comes out, and it becomes really fun, and they don't even necessarily realize that they're working on skills while they're doing it, which is, that's obviously a huge win-win.
Yeah. I've introduced it to some kids here in the cage, and they always love it. And you ask them first, have you ever played pepper before? And they don't know what you're talking about.
That's right.
Don't know it.
Yeah.
That's right. But I find it really interesting how all of these things, again, I'm 800 years old, but all of these things like playing pepper and playing wall ball and playing stick ball and long tossing, all of this stuff that we did when we were kids, and we had no idea that this is what you should be doing, and it's going to make you a better player. And now we're trying to reintroduce a lot of this stuff to the kids so that they'll get the same result.
Yeah, it's fun, and so much is built around these tournaments, in the youth world, that sometimes coaches forget to have fun, and forget that, we want these kids returning next year to play and excited for next season.
Yeah.
If I keep burying these kids because I feel that they're not ready yet, it's development doesn't happen without opportunity, and it's no matter who it is, as long as they have that attitude and effort for me, let's go. I'm going to find ways to get you some opportunity. It doesn't mean you're going to become the best player in the world, but I need you to find some sort of confidence here.
So, Chris, give us some final thoughts. I mean, if you had a message that you wanted to give out there to younger players, younger coaches, parents, try and wrap this all up. What do you think?
Let's see. Probably the one message that we've already talked about a lot here is to keep perspective. Parents and coaches, remember who your audience is, what the age of these athletes are, what is realistic for their abilities, what's realistic for their mental capacity. As coaches, we keep reading your audience. If we just are lecturing them, to no end, we're going to lose them sooner than we want to.
Okay.
And I think as athletes, I'll say it again, we have to take ownership of our own development. We may find ourselves in a situation where we have new coaches every couple of years, but we're with ourselves all the time. And we have to, one, understand that every single coach that's in front of us may have different ways of looking at things. And if they're giving us feedback and advice that may differ from something we've done before, nobody's trying to hurt anybody. It's just different thoughts and opinions. So we need to be coachable as athletes and be ready for that information and use it, apply it. But when it's all said and done, we need to ask ourselves, are we doing what we need to do on our own time to make sure that we are ready for that opportunity that we get?
I mean, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's a great. No, I think that's a great place to end it. Coach Chris, we really appreciate you taking the time with us this morning. We know everybody's time is valuable. You've had a lot of important things to say. I'm sure our listeners got a lot out of it. I know Jimmy and I did. So just can't thank you enough for taking the time with us today. Give us an idea. Where does somebody want to go to get in touch with you? Websites and social medias and all that.
The website is baseballdudes.com, and social media, just search Baseball Dudes on Facebook, Instagram, or X. I'm not on, we are on YouTube, but I'm not on any of the other ones. But you can go there, and if somebody wants to contact me, they can contact me through any of those platforms.
Well, I got to tell you, Chris, this has been a treat for me. I enjoyed the conversation greatly. And, we always say that this whole coaching thing that we do is all about building relationships, and I'm glad that this one has been started.
Oh, good. I appreciate you guys reaching out, and it was good chatting. And I'm not out there on the field much anymore with the kids. I spend most of my time in the cage working with them, but I know that what goes on out on the field is not always easy. It's fun. It's great to be out there in the fresh air, but it's not always easy, and the audibles are relentless. But I appreciate what you guys do out there too. It's your approach. I wish there was more of it. There needs to be more of it for the kids' sake.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you so much for that. Now, that was some really good stuff. Coach Gissell hits the nail right on the head when he talks about what we need to do to get young players ready and how we could raise their baseball IQ. This is all important stuff. Remember, we talk about it a lot on this show. where we say that it's the basic parts of the game that need to be taught at the younger levels. It's not about going out and playing all of these tournaments and playing all of these games where the kids are not really learning much. We have to follow his message. It's good stuff. There's a reason why he has so many followers on social media. So go ahead, look him up. BaseballDudes.com. Baseball Dudes is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There's no reason why you shouldn't be following Coach Gissell. Really, really good stuff. With that in mind, I want to remind everybody that's listening, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. It will let you know when new content is released, great content like what we just did, so you won't miss out on any of the amazing information that our guests have to offer. Remember, it's all about getting 1% better every day. And coaches, I can't hammer this home enough. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the next one.